Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to Welcome Grove Homestead. It is a very cool morning today. It is really hard to believe that just like 2 days ago, it was like 95 degrees. Granted, it wasn't 95 degrees at 8 o'clock in the morning, but it was significantly warmer and uncomfortable and not foggy. And today we have a damp, foggy, cool morning that's actually cool enough that I need an overshirt. Of course, that'll wear off very quickly, but this is the first time in a week that I'm going to milk my goats. Now that Claire is on a machine, I can get back into the swing of milking the goats again. Audrey was doing a great job taking over while I needed it, and this morning she says, "Mom, are you gonna milk the goats?" I said, "Yes, I'll milk the goats." Hi, ladies. Mama's back. You happy to see me? Hi. Alright, let's get milking. Some of you may recall that I have been mixing my own goat grain for quite a while now. I wanted to withhold my official thoughts on it until it had been far enough into the lactation that I could really give an educated opinion on it. And I ran a little bit of an experiment. So I worked with a friend of mine who professionally formulates livestock rations, and so we created this feed that is well balanced, and so the calcium to phosphorus ratio is safe so that male goats can eat it, and so it's a very minimalistic ingredient list. There's only, I think, 6 ingredients in it. We've got alfalfa pellets, barley, cracked corn, oats, and soybean meal, and sunflower seeds. So it is not a very complex list. Some people might take issue with the fact that there's soybean meal in it, but the plain simple fact is that even though it is soybean meal, it is a very minimalistic ingredient list. I can pronounce every single thing on the list that is in this feed. Now, if I had my druthers, of course I would be able to source some other protein source, but that is what is affordable, and it's also you're able to get a lot more protein with a smaller amount of soybean meal versus doing something like field peas. To get the same amount of protein in the feed with field peas, you'd have to have a much higher ratio of the peas in the ration. But anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. I ran a small experiment, and I wanted to know if I mixed in an actual formulated dairy pellet, if that would make any impact on their milk production. And so I got Tucker Milling's Dairy Goat pellets, which they're a pretty decent pellet. I actually had them on it before I started making this feed. And what I did was I actually mixed it 50-50 with my grain mix just to see if it made any impact in their milk production, as well as when I ran out of my 50-50 mix, they were on just solely that pelleted ration for a short time. And honestly, there was no change. No difference between a formulated pelleted feed versus this handmade mix that I've been doing. So I'm really overall pleased with what I've seen with my feed ration. Is it convenient? No. But honestly, when a person is going for mixing their own feed, they're really not going for convenience. We're trying to go for something that is affordable as well as healthy for my herd. I can pronounce every single thing, like I said, in the ingredients list. I know everything that's going into them. I mean, just looking at the goats, they look fantastic. Their coats are shiny, their hair is soft, they're very healthy, they're doing really great. So I'm very, very pleased with my homemade ration. If you're interested in making this ration for yourself at home, I'm going to go ahead and put the directions for it in the description on this video. Mostly I'm going to have just like the percentages of the ratios for how much of what to go in there for 100 pounds of feed. And then I'll also break it down according to my hand mix batches, because I cannot physically mix 100 pounds at a time. So I had to break it down into batches. So I will break that down for you guys in the description. Okay guys, we are finally about to reach the culmination of a massive project that I have been working on in conjunction with my dad. We've been working on a new day range for the goats, for the doe goats, to go out into the woods right over here, right by their existing pen, and let them just have all this wooded space. It's going way down, all the way down to my parents' barn. I mean, it's not even possible to film how big this space is because you honestly can't walk through all of it. But it is a massive, massive space for them to range, graze, browse, do all their goaty things, and not have to feed them any hay in the summertime. So we're hoping that this will be a semi-permanent setup for them, and I'm gonna put them in. They're only going to have a handful of hours today, but they're pretty used to the routine of coming in and being milked, so they should come back pretty easily when it's time. So now, let's go get our first goats into this pasture. That's a lot of trips to get them all moved, but coming back in should be really simple. They're pretty well trained to coming back to the barn at night, and once they get used to this routine of coming out here, it'll be a lot easier to move them. And these goats have no idea just how huge this space really is. They're focused on like the smallest area closest to their pen because that's like the most immediate, like, ooh, look at all the green things. But honestly, like behind me, the boys originally had, actually, okay, if we go way back, the feeder pigs originally had this area, and then I kind of reused that fence line to create a pen for our boy goats. And they kind of exhausted it, even though it's a fairly large square footage space. So I decided to move the boys and basically expand off of this so it encompasses what originally had the boys and the original pig pen, but it goes all the way back to our back pasture. It's easily a couple of acres of woods that they have free reign over during the day, and then they're gonna come back into their barn at night. They get milked, they spend the night in their barn, and then they get milked in the morning and come out here during the day. So it's really exciting to be able to offer this to them. It's a wide variety of forages. It's a natural food source, so it's a lot cheaper for me. And it's just gonna give them a lot more natural food sources where they can actually browse, because goats are generally more browsers than grazers, so they really want to eat the leaves off of trees and bushes and things like that. And this space behind me has lots of that, and tons of poison ivy for them to clear out. There's just so much stuff. It's basically a goat paradise back there, and I can't wait to see what happens with their milk production. I am aware that there is a chance that I will get poison ivy from milking goats that have been walking through poison ivy, but it's a chance I'm willing to take when they're gonna have this opportunity to have so much free, to me, food. Buddy, what do you think? So with the goats moved out of this pasture, that means that I can let Clarence out of the nursery and he can run around in the grass while the goats are out of here. Now, why don't I let him in with the goats when they're in here? That is for a couple of reasons. Namely, first of all, we don't want him nursing off of these goats. A friend of mine has had bottle calves before that were bucket trained, and they were nursing off of her dairy goats. So we really don't want him to be nursing off of our goats. Secondly, he's been really young. He's a week and a half old now, and I just don't want the goats beating up on him until he puts a little bit more size on him. And Bindi has been getting to know him through the safety of a fence, not being right in there with him. So just a few different reasons for him to be kept separate from the goats. He has spent some time with the yearlings, Molly and Arwen. When I'm milking, they just get thrown into the nursery. They're small enough that they can't hurt him, and it gives him some exposure with the goats. They're mostly afraid of him, so they kind of run away. But so he's been doing great. He's really excited to have all this running space in here, and the goats are loving their new area. It's funny, actually. We've got a couple of these old spools over here that were for the pigs. Oh, excuse you, buddy. And they've decided to adopt them. Hey, ladies. The new hangout spot. Well, this has been really exciting for me, getting these goats moved into a real, legitimate, huge day ranging area. We tried with a smaller area and we're really surprised at how fast they wiped it out. If we decide that this is a great permanent solution, there's actually a location on their fence line that we have already scouted out to cut out the wire fencing and add in a gate later if that's what we decide to do. So I'm really excited about the prospect of what this is going to mean for our doe herd, what it might mean for our milk production, and just really seeing what we're going to get having them being able to day range so much natural forage. It's also really exciting to let the calf out of the nursery, let him start running around, touch grass for the first time. Uh-oh, here he comes. Hi, buddy. Hi. Hi. Oh my goodness, hello. Hello. I know you're just a big love. Oh my goodness. Hi. There you go. Thank you so much for joining us today. As always, this is your country nerd with a goat herd, saying that you can grow where you're planted. Hi, buddy.